I make my team get up early. So they start calling me. I'm just like, yeah, get up early and take your time for you, and then I take my time for me, right? You know? But it's important. I need all my team to do it because that's how you make your best version. And I need my teammates to be their best version. That's the commitment on my team, is that you will take the steps to become your best version. And now we can take on higher challenges, right? But don't call me during those hours where we're doing what we need to do with our own time, whatever that is. So, anyway, back to where I was. So yeah, whenever I wasn't locked up in these places, I was pawned off on this girl, far after my mother and her father were together. And I actually liked her father. Her father was a decent individual. And he got away from my mom pretty quick. And that's not something. She's a trapper, you know. She will get herself a good situation, and she's highly manipulative. And she's very controlling, and anyway, I can't deal with it. I don't think I could sit next to my mother and not start physically ripping her head off of her body and kicking it around like a soccer ball for a couple of months. But so I just stayed down here in Colombia and all over the world. I'm now worldwide, but I like Colombia as a home base. I eat like a king. I use excellent gym facilities, and boxing facilities and jiu-jitsu facilities. And, I do the Sunday run and another run in the week. And, my gym sessions are real raw. I do 10 minutes every day on the elliptical, and I'll like Navy SEAL type warm up for 40 minutes before I even start lifting pretty heavy weights, just under the steroid guys, but then I've never done a steroid. I lived in the jungle, the deep jungle, for 5 years of Colombia. That was just 5 years ago now. And I really just kind of came back to society because my daughter was turning 18, excuse me. She's now 21 at this time that I tell this story. And so back to the beginning, back to one of the last solid chapters, the first solid chapter, that I can remember. So I crept up to this fairground and I noticed this lot on the edge. I think they were a golf cart mechanic. Well, they were definitely a golf cart rental, a golf cart parking lot, right? And I went in there and all the keys were in the golf cart. So I just grabbed one and I just drove that thing around and I didn't care. And I actually was driving people from their cars to the gate in the parking lot for tips. And I was racking up some good money. And then later I snagged one of the fair t-shirts from the Murphy Brothers Midway, which is a traveling group of rides and games that filled the Midway with Ferris wheels and everything else. Back then it was the Gravitron. This is back in 1993. And they had Tootsie Roll, and was one of the big songs. They'd play all the top songs of the time. And they had, some cool rides, roller coasters, everything, fun houses. And then they had games, right? You could play pool table game. You could play basketball game where the hoop's obviously bent, but that's the game, right? And then, but what they don't know is the guy's gonna hit that stick what they call the stick joint, but it's a construct of R key sticks, which is just like a hinge for a door with an R key through it, so they'll fit it together like a puzzle and throw these R keys through it. Anyway, if this thing starts vibrating because it looks like it's gonna go, he'll just hit it with his hip, and it'll definitely, raise the chance that it bounces out to 90%, really. So he'll just reach for it early, and you won't notice. He'll be good at doing it. When I was 13, I raked it in on that one. Then they have another one, the balloon store, they called it, where you're just popping balloons. That one's just a mouth hustle. I murdered in that as well. They couldn't believe. And because I was just a 13-year-old kid, people were like, this 13-year-old kid's not gonna take me. So I had a line ready to play with me. I was killing the old school hustlers in that, and they were getting pissed. And there was even some shit about that. There was a fight over, okay, so I kind of fast forwarded the whole story, right? Let me back up. I even remember stealing a golf cart with no brakes. There was a guy with a kid on his lap, and I had change in a cup in the front, and I smacked into this van, and change went everywhere. I was like, fuck, let me go get my boss. Disappeared, right? Anyway, I was getting weed for some of the guys in the booth in these games. This guy Leroy Reynolds, that was his alias, actually. That was a fake ID, right? So anyway, I hooked up with I was getting some weed for a few people. I'm talking to him, he's like, man, you're smart. He could see I was a smart kid. He could see I didn't really have nobody. So he's just like, hey man, if you wanna go with us, go with us. Well, I showed up late for to get to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I've caught a ride with another family. Back then, and carnies, they all knew what a hard time was. A lot of them were escaped convicts. A lot of them were parole runners. A lot of them had to be in a new place every 2 weeks, and a lot of them were criminals. A lot of them were drug addicts. It's an interesting genre of people, and but a lot of them are families. A lot of them are go-getters. A lot of them are just real deal hustlers. You can make $50,000, $70,000, $80,000 just as what they would call an operator or an agent, and you can make a lot of money. And if you start buying your own stores, and then you got like 4 agents in a thing, oh man, these guys were killing it. You can make a $200,000, $300,000 a year business back then. This is before the internet, right? There's not a lot of shit that you can get into for little money and start getting big stacks of cash every day, right? So we would, anyway, for the next 13 months, 15 months, I was gone. I was fucking like, thank you. I wasn't being drugged anymore. I was sober. I was making for $350, staying in Marriott's staying in Hotel 6 at the least. Walking down in my slippers, getting ice, thinking I'm living the good life, air conditioned room, great, don't have to clean, don't have to cook. I'm killing it, I don't have to eat the fucking slop. They give you in these shitholes, right? So, like group homes and whatever. A few of the places actually had some good food and they had some carpet, but hey, listen. Do you think a prisoner would fucking really give a shit if his cell was carpeted and he had a wooden piece of furniture in there? I mean, you're in a cell, fucking either way, you know what I mean? Fuck, forget about it. It sucks. It's a fucking shit life, Thank God for the Edge radio station and Arrow, because without those things, I would have been in total fucking pain. I live in my headphones till this day because I had a little antenna radio, man, and we had those really great radio stations, so I would be in there. I actually only remember one song. I'll never tell anyone what the song is. It's a weird song. And, but it's from that grunge day, that 93 age, right? I was right about 80, I would say probably like 88 to 97. 98, no, yeah, maybe, no, 88 to 95, somewhere around, pretty much just in 10 different spots, just from place to place that were like these. This was all so my mother could get fatter, watch Netflix, and not have to deal with the kid, and get one more check off on top of all the other checks she was getting. So, and she took my dad to the cleaners, man, and just, dragging her to do 2 huge storage units. Now as an adult, that just weird looking as hell. 2 huge storage units of stuff she didn't even use. She was just dragging, hoarding. It was crazy. She was just taking anything she could from anyone she could, stepping on everybody, controlling everyone in her, right? And then now I find out this Kia Karlberg in Sweden's work at anti-narcissism.org. You can see all about that, right? And I hate the word narcissism. It's been slaughtered and redefined so much and applied wrong. And all narcissists point it on someone else. So it's just totally convoluted. But there is a black hole soulless disease where someone's been so deceptive their entire life that they become Amber Heard. We saw it, thanks to Johnny Depp and millions of dollars and the labor of all kinds of testimonial witnesses and the top of the line psychiatry and lawyers and all this stuff, right? So, So that was a trip, man. I was in 16 cities, a 13-year-old kid with a fake ID saying he was 16, making good grips of money, having a blast, learning a lot. And during the course of that, this guy that I was with, he is teaching me about the Bible, and he's teaching me about God and the importance of God. And in Birmingham, Alabama, in pouring down rain, I was really feeling the Spirit. I'm 13. I drop to my knees in the mud in the pouring down rain. I wanted to be big, I remember, and dedicated. And I screamed up, boy, I want to be an archangel. I want to be an archangel in your army. That's what I want to be. He's like, all right, I'm going to give it to you. And, but I didn't know that until now, right? Until later. And that's why we have such a story. Maybe that's why this is such a story. Maybe it's that moment right now, there. Anyway, and there's way more stories, way more insane than this one out there. But I think most of them past the line of this one, they never get told, unfortunately. We will have to read those books and watch those, download those stories in the next existence, right? On the other side, which I know is real and I know it too well, and I will give you those exact stories coming up here. So I prayed, make me an archangel. I want to be an archangel. And so this guy, so we're going around, right? We even, so there's a season for fairs, and then it goes into this 3-month winter. We were going to go to Bahamas or Florida or somewhere and sell fireworks with this other cat. But unfortunately, the cat that I was rolling with was a real cat, a big 6'2", gigantic. Like, I never badmouthed him. I never really got lippy with him ever. That would be ridiculous, right? That would be a stupid person's activity. So, I always respected him. I always really appreciated him. And I always did what I could for him. I was right there, whatever he needed, I had his back. And he had mine. And we robbed it. So this session was winding down, and we robbed unfortunately, they got a car, and then, we were loaded with cash, and he got high on some other shit, who knows what. and then somewhere in the hotel, and then came back in the room. I was sleeping, and then we got into it because he was like waking me up and fucking. I don't know why, but I had really bad nightmares back then. I don't remember what happened, but I grabbed the home. I just woke up. I used to tell everyone, don't, when you wake me up with something. I had already lived with the Pedroncellis, I call them the Piston Sallies. There was 3 of them in my life. 2 of them were related. The other one, who knows? But anyway, so I would call them all 3. They all met each other. The 2 brother and sister met the other Piston Sally, who I was locked up with in one of these places. And then I would call them all the Piston Sallies, because they really were. But anyway, so these guys, living with them, we found that I would live with they would wake me up with a stick, because sometimes I would wake up swinging. Well, I don't know what the situation is, but I was smashed. Little kid, man. That's the thing that used to really impress a lot of the big guys. That's how I was able to fall in with the right people. Actually, with the most cowboy, with the strongest people who had the best character, who held themselves to the best discipline out of everybody in the hood. Okay? And even a lot of people in that cowboy group tribe fell. But anyway, because I had already had to go through all, fighting with bigger guys in these places, and then, I was a heavy-hitting little kid somehow. Just like the same way that Mike Tyson developed like that. I started out a very skinny little kid, I don't know. I epigenetically morphed, and I'll get into my own epigenetic scientific research and conclusions in a brief mention in this story as well later. So I end up smashing this guy with a phone, and next thing you know, the cops show up. He was able to get away. I was trying to get my shit together, and the cops bolted into bing into the room, and they got me. And so they stuck me in another place there. This was in Florida. Fort Lauderdale, Florida is where this happened. And no, this was just outside of Miami. And we had done this Christmas show in Fort Lauderdale, and then we robbed this place for like $6,000, and then we made it to Miami. And we were getting this skunk weed there, man, that swamp stuff coming outside the hood. He knew the whole landscape in Miami. This guy it was so impressive to, and still to this day, I think. I was very lucky to ever have had him in my life. I got so many downloads from him during that time. It just sped me up ahead of the game, straight up. So thank you, Leroy, if you ever find this, if you ever, I love you, man, and I miss you. I hope you're doing well. And so then, cigarette. Yeah, so they stuck me in a place there in Florida. I was there for like 3 months, and then they transported me back, and then I'm back in the slammer, until I break out again. The next breakout, I actually was another 2-story window from that Memorial Hospital, the haunted asylum of Gotham, Albuquerque, right? Anyway, and then I jumped out. I was in sweats. I remember I had stole clothes, stuck them in my thing. I stole clothes from the guard station, nurses station area, and I took the I was able to just open a window in the school. Everybody was at the schoolhouse. There's a schoolroom where you go to school, right? And so we would leave the unit, this lockdown unit, and we would go to this schoolhouse, and then we'd be in the school. Well, everybody went to this classroom, and I stayed in this classroom, boosted the window. I had seen I would be able to do it a few days prior. I had it all planned, right? I was telling this girl to come with me, but she pussed. I boosted the window, jumped out the window, rolled down the hill. I remember I did a perfect land roll to not hurt my legs. And then I went and caught the bus. I went into a restroom, and then I would just peek. I was peeking through the door to see when the bus would go up to the bus stop that was right in front of the restaurant. And then I just walked directly out. I had changed in the bathroom, and I just walked directly right onto the bus. Boom. And so I remember the big deep breath I took. I passed the. I hadn't been out but like 3 weeks, and talking to a friend of mine in front of a record store. My mother, she couldn't even let me be free, right? Because they could discover, if I was to get picked up in another way, right, they could start looking into her and what, you know what I'm saying? It would be really hard to detect. It would be really hard to go against a mother about a little kid. Anyway, you know, she had it locked out, but she fucking actually drove by, saw me, and called the police and had me picked up again. I mean, you could, it's just like, so, you know, I would have to get sneakier and sneakier each time. I remember one morning where I was in, well, I was in this place, I think it was Charter, Maine. They had a Charter, Maine and a Charter Heights. I was in both of them, but I think this is at the Maine. And they would have you stand in front of your door each morning, right? And you go through a roll call to make sure everyone's there. And the guy, funny dude, he was, no, you know what? This was at UNMH. This was at the University Psychiatric, the UNM, University of New Mexico Children's Psychiatric Hospital. That's what this, but it's just another lockdown fucking kiddie jail where they're getting Medicaid. This was all Medicaid stand. And one of these guys, the guy, I forget his name, but one of the owners in Memorial Hospital, he would drive his sports car to the hospital. I'd see the sports car through the edge window of our room. You know, they had this little tiny one, he didn't realize in the back, they had this little tiny window that would let light into the bathroom. So if you would get up to that somehow, you could see the back thing, right? And, or maybe it was a vent or something. Anyway, he would be like, yeah, I run to work every day. He would hold this group. He was another black hole soulless person. And I'm gonna explain how I know all of this. That's really why I have to write the stories, because I have to I need to fully explain the full experience of how I figured out the other side is true, and how we all need to get paddling in the right direction now. I'm like Nemo in Finding Nemo when he's yelling at the fish, hey, I figured out right? Let's all swim in the same direction, let's beat this, right? And we can do that, we can all start swimming in the same direction and beat this. And right now they got us in this chaotic direction because order through chaos, right? If they can keep us like this, and then we don't, and we also, the agenda of these particular order through chaos individuals is to keep us from coming back to God, to keep us from it's a battle of souls, it's a war for souls. Okay, and they hate those who have lost the war, who their soul went to that energetic place that a bad soul will go to. They're fucking pissed. They hate us. They hate anyone, you know, just like a small jealous-minded hater today. Okay, so back to the story. So, So yeah, this guy, he calls roll and he says, "Hey, Houdini, you here?" I was like, "Yeah, today, motherfucker, but who knows about tomorrow?" or but this is just in hindsight, looking back and being a 14-year-old kid who's fucking, you end up fighting, you end up all that shit in these places. You know what I mean? And you can't talk about it. You know what I mean? You're fighting around the court. All those same prison rules are there. That whole same culture is there. I mean, we had a hardcore thing in there. You couldn't use the restroom without doing a bunch of push-ups and all this shit. You know what I mean? Whatever the deal was that day, or you get it. And I loved it. I loved that whole, and I became, adaptability, according to Einstein, is the greatest measure of intelligence. And I am pleased to report I had good results, at least, and you have to adapt to your environment, and so pay attention to that, because sometimes to change your problems, all you do is change your environment. You have to geographically move, and don't tell anyone, and change your phone number. You can come back to people, you can have all their numbers saved, you know what I mean? It's very rare that anyone makes big changes. That's a big opportunity for those who do. So, So we'll go ahead and wrap this one up at having covered the child incarceration thing. And okay, so then I go to this place called Hogares, which are these halfway houses eventually when I'm 16. And this dude, who knows what he did to need to do it, but he went and did a 10-year monk commitment in Tibet. And got cancer all over his head and stayed in Tibet, didn't get the cancer treated, finished out his thing. Then, so when he was talking to me, he had these huge surgery things all over his head. He was just like, yeah, well, we shave our head. My skin wasn't conditioned, so I got these big cancer, but I finished my thing before I got the cancer removed. I was like, damn, that's hardcore. Very special individual. And it takes a very special individual to see what he saw. He could see right away that I didn't really need to be in any of these places, that it was a fucking other kids for cash scam, right? And Hogares is like a very shabby, state-funded, it's just you live in a real house with, I think about 25 other kids, and they'll have like 3 staff members on duty at a time. And they trust, you cook and you clean, and you start to you have a chore, a duty, everybody pitches in, and you go to real school. So, they bust you to a school, and a lot of abusive shit happened there, man, to kids, actually, and in a lot of those places, actually, and I remember looking at one kid's face now that was getting abused pretty bad. And just I never know what happened to that bad guy, but I wouldn't be surprised if he killed himself. I could see him wearing that I want to die face, and that shit sticks with the I don't know, I've seen some gory shit too, some bloody shit too, and it hurts, man. It all hurts, but especially now when you really come back to God, right? And then you still have these things with you. I don't like the word trauma, because I think you just got to get that word out of your system, and I think you just we came here to get strong, and whatever breaks you get in muscle and brain and all that, they heal. You just got to put the reps in, you got to do the work. That's why we came here, to get strong. So we get breaks, we get heals. Now, so anyway, this guy, he knew what was going on, and he wrote a good write-up to where I wasn't gonna get stuck by any kind of voluntary consent. My mother couldn't sign me in anywhere. He was just like, he really drew it out. And so from that point on, I went and found my own places to live, with other families, and I just stayed with other families, and yeah, we'll get into the next one, the rest of it on the next one. And today is November 12th, 2024. Yesterday was 11/11. It's right now. You can look the metadata of the video. It's here. I'll show this better. Oh, this is the authenticity of the. Yeah, November 12th, 5:41 a.m. There you go. Oh, here's where we're at. Got some new cabinets.